Get ready to immerse yourself in a world of vision, inspiration, belonging, and empowerment. Brought to you by Naturals2Go, the VIBEcast is your gateway to realizing your entrepreneurial dreams. In each episode, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit, offering you the tools and insights you need to turn your dreams into reality. We're all about fostering a powerful vision, sparking inspiration, nurturing a sense of belonging, and providing the empowerment you need to thrive. So sit back, relax, and get ready to dive into the vibe. It's time to take your entrepreneurial journey to the next level. Thank you for joining us, and let's start living the vibe.
Hey folks, welcome to VIBEcast. Linda Ballesteros here. I'm your host today, and we are going to have a lot of fun today. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to spend with us. We're going to talk about business growth. Recently read an article. It was in the Hartford. The name of the article was Managing for Growth. It went on to say, as a growing business, your company will go through extensive change. To manage this growth and these changes strategically, you'll want to make sure that your business stays focused and on its goals and grows with a sense of purpose and cohesion. And that is so critical. So many times you may see a company just explode, so much so that it gets totally out of hand. That's what we're going to be talking about today with Gary Hawke. Gary has been with Naturals2Go for about 13 plus years now, and he's in the Idaho Falls area, which comes into play in the story. So we'll get to that. But he's up there with his family. And Gary, so glad that you're able to spend some time with us today to talk about the early years of Naturals2Go.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
A lot of people don't know where we started. So can you give us a little bit of background? Because I don't think we were always Naturals2Go. Is that right?
Yeah. Actually, the concept actually started, if you back up, I don't know, over 30 years ago, it was when the whole thing came to be. Very much, I think Randy Francis, the original founder, started this with the idea of what a lot of people come into our business model today, having the same idea that he just wanted to come up with something that he could do with his family and make some money. And hopefully at the end of the month, the things went well and you can pay the bills and still put food on the table and have a little bit of extra time to do some stuff with wife and kids was basically his whole goal. And so that was the original thought, is they came up with this idea of it was kind of a build a better mousetrap, really was the idea. There was vending has been around for hundreds of years probably. And Randy had this idea of how he could take a type of vending machine and make one much better. And so he did what a lot of people did. He had a great idea and he went and found a partner that had some money, and they got together and the original Ventech was born at that point. And they said, all right, let's see what we can do with this thing.
Mm-hmm. So they created this to be a business opportunity where others could buy into it and have their own business, right?
Yeah, that was the long-term goal. I mean, I think initially Randy actually had the idea like, hey, let's just build some really cool vending machines and we'll go put them out. And he wanted something for his family to do that would give them some extra time. And it was really about time management and being able to have more time to do what they wanted. And this partner that he came on board with had a background in business development and franchising. Mm-hmm. And so when it came together and it was like, hey, this is a really cool machine you guys have come up with, the partner was basically like, hey, we could take this to the next level and help other people do what you're doing, basically. And so then the business opportunity side of the program of the business was born at that point, and they launched into that.
Mm-hmm. So what did the company look like when you joined them?
It's funny. We should probably back up one step before that, because when I came on board, I think there was 10 or 11 employees. If I remember right, I think I was the 12th employee that started for the company. So there was not a lot of people working there. And the big buzz was that they had just moved into this building. It was just an office building, basically, that was relatively new in this business park that they'd moved into. But we were hauling stuff from the old building, which was this Quonset hut. I mean, well, we're here in Idaho. Everything looks like a potato cellar here. And that's what it looked like. It literally looked like they just set up shop in this old potato cellar looking building. And they were moving stuff from that into the new building. And then they were so excited about being in this new spot. But the good old days, as they called them, the original days, they were in this old Quonset hut downtown. And that's where they were running everything out of.
Wow. And certainly it has changed since then. And when you started with them, Gary, what was your role with the company?
So when I first started, Naturals2Go had been, it was more about 6 or 8 months previous to that. It was pretty new, basically. And so, their flagship had been these other vending machines that were just a little quarter type machine. You put a quarter in the machine and you turn the crank and you get a handful of product out. And they had come up with a new design for that industry, basically. And that had done very well for years. And then they had this idea that maybe that there was kind of a need for healthier options in vending machines. And you even saw companies like McDonald's starting to put calories on the board out there, like how many calories a Big Mac has in it. And we have this thought, like, people are starting to become a little more conscious and aware of what they're putting in their bodies. And so maybe now might be the time to launch something that had some healthier options in it. So they had come up with this idea to put healthier products in a vending machine and actually build a machine basically that was just for that industry, just for that part of it. And they had just launched that. And so when I came on board, I was doing a little bit of everything, but my main role was to try and help people get into that as a business for themselves.
So, a lot of times we've seen companies and they do evolve because of trends. And so you just described one of those trends where people were wanting healthier options in the machines. Gary, I can remember when I was in corporate, the healthiest thing in the machine was the salted peanuts. That was the healthiest thing in the machine. So I can see where this trend, we evolved in a way and we provided a solution to that. And we're able to take that out into the community. So with that evolution, I am sure that the company has evolved over time as well. So have you seen where there have been situations where the company had to redirect because of maybe a hiccup of some sort?
Yeah, there's been a couple of those over the years. There's one that kind of stands out in my mind initially is we had partnered with a manufacturer. You kind of have to maybe help understand Randy's mindset a little bit. He knew the vending business, that industry very, very well. But he really didn't know anything about manufacturing, like forming steel and building a machine. It's like that just wasn't his thing, and he didn't want it to be his thing. And so his whole plan was, let's find a company that's really good at building vending machines, and we're really good at helping people be successful in the vending industry. We'll pair those two things together, and we'll let them do what we do, and we'll do what we do, and then it'll all work out great. And so we partnered with a company that builds vending machines, and everything was going great. And then one day, out of the blue, that company didn't exist anymore. And we called the phone and nobody answered, and come to find out the doors had closed, and we were kind of left holding the bag a little bit, like, okay, I guess now we got to find somebody that can build vending machines for us. And so there was things like that you run into, and I guess maybe we shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, being in business is not always perfect. And so no matter what you do, there will be times when things will come up that you're like, whoa, gee, we didn't see that coming, or we hadn't planned for that, or we weren't thinking about that. And so you have to kind of roll and evolve and say, okay, what are we going to do now? And you come up with a solution, and you move on. And so you kind of have to just bounce off of those things and do the best you can and move forward, which is what they did. They ended up finding another company that they could partner with that could build machines for us, and away we went. We just kept on going. But yeah, there was, for a short period of time there was a bit of a hiccup.
And business life is very similar to life. There are going to be hiccups, and it's all about adapting. It's all about adjusting. It's all about being flexible. And I tell you, there are times, Gary, I think I am so flexible. I feel like Gumby. And there are times that businesses probably feel the same way. But those that continue to stand are those that can adapt to, whether it's a market change, whether it is a change in vendors and suppliers. It's all about just changing, because just like you said, everybody's going to have some hiccups along the way. So,
Yep.
As clearly, Naturals2Go has found other manufacturers and has moved forward. And so how has the vending machine itself evolved over time since you started with the company?
The very first machine they had when I started was about as plain of a vending machine as you'll ever see. And it actually kind of created its own problem a little bit, if you will, because people who look for healthier products don't buy stuff out of vending machines traditionally. I mean, if you back up 15 years ago, nobody expected to find something healthy in a vending machine. And so the initial machine that they started with was definitely not the best design in the world, because it didn't grab people's attention and say, hey, look, this has healthy stuff in it. And so actually the situation we ran into with that company going away, ultimately in the long run, was a blessing in disguise, because it made us retool and remanufacture and come up with something better. And ultimately we ended up kind of solving that problem as well, because when we redesigned it, we came up with some ideas that would grab people's attention and say, hey, look, this machine is different. It has other options in it. It has stuff that's better for you in it. And we changed the design of it and the look of it. And we messed around with lighting and added more lights to it and things like that that made the machine so much better. So what kind of was a bit of a hiccup really became a blessing. But that change in it then would grab people's attention and say, hey, look, this machine's different. And that's when the business seemed to start to take off a little bit, is that as we put those machines out, I think our owners were doing much better at that point, because people were aware. They would see that machine and go, wait a minute, what's that? And then they'd realize, hey, there's healthier stuff in this. Mm-hmm. And so that really is where it kind of took off a little bit.
So you just mentioned the owner operators. So clearly Naturals2Go has a business opportunity that helps individuals become entrepreneurs and own their own vending business. In the beginning, what did that training look like, Gary? Because many of the owner operators, they come straight out of corporate. Maybe they still have their corporate job. This is a side hustle. But what was the training like in the beginning?
Well, when my understanding was at the very beginning, at the very first, there really wasn't one. It was basically, here's the manual, you'll figure it out. which they very quickly learned, like, hey, we need to teach people more about the business and the industry and that kind of stuff. So they started doing a training. But when we'd moved into that new building and I started working there, that first initial training, it was a 1-day thing. And so people would come in, they would have a couple hours of business training in the morning. We'd have some lunch. They'd have some hands-on machine training in the afternoon, and they'd be on their way by 4:00 in the afternoon. And so it was very limited when we first started.
Mm-hmm. And about how many people did you have in those early classes?
The first one I remember, I think there was 3 new owners in it.
Wow. And just to give the listeners a little bit of a perspective, what are the size of our training classes now?
I mean, typically, I think we're in the 30 to 40 new owners range per training class at this point, is about where we're at.
Yeah. So when we look at the evolution of this company, at what point, I know that you said that when we got the new machines, there seemed to be an uptick in interest, and not just interest in purchasing from the machines, but owner operators being more interested in having their own business. So was there another point in the evolution of Naturals2Go that you see that gave it even more of a boost to get us to where we are today?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things Randy was really good at the idea of surrounding yourself with people that were smarter than you. Now, I don't say that to take anything away from Randy Francis, but it was just a life philosophy that he had. Is if you really want to be successful, you go find people that know more than you do, and surround yourself with them, and the rising tide will raise all ships kind of thing. It'll make us all better. And so as we started to bring people on, and as the company started to grow, I don't know if it was an intent or if it just happened and we realized, hey, this is a really good thing. But as the company grew, we started bringing people on that were owner operators first. So we would have folks that would purchase the business model from us. They would get their business up and running. And then we would say, hey, this person has an amazing set of skills from their previous life that we could actually take advantage of from our company as well. And we would go out and recruit them and bring them on as an employee. And so the company began to grow with employees that were Naturals2Go business model owners. And like I say, I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but what happened from that, there as a result of that, was we started getting a ton of feedback from the operator's perspective. Like, hey, if you did this, our businesses would run smoother, and things like that. So we started to implement the ideas and suggestions from the owners into the model to make it better and go smoother for future owners. And that was one of the big things that really kind of kicked things off. We had a guy come on board, out of Buffalo, New York, and he bought a bunch of machines from us. And one thing led to another, and it was that same kind of thing. He had a skill set and business situation that we looked at and said, hey, I think we could use this to our advantage to really improve our program. And that was, of course, bringing Heath Falzerano in with some of the things that he was doing to help us get machines located in place for owners better. And his, he, like say, not to take anything away from Randy, but Heath had a vision of what the company could become way beyond what Randy Francis ever saw in his vision, I think. And a lot of that is, I think, based off of Heath's experience as an owner and really being able to see, hey, I think we could take this to this level instead. And that was when you saw the company really take off and begin the growth phase that it's in now.
Mm-hmm. Gary, I have seen companies that, we can look at the blockbusters, we can look at all of those dinosaurs where they didn't make the changes that they needed to stay relevant. So do you see that there have been changes in Naturals2Go that makes this company, our product and our service more relevant out there?
For sure. I mean, they're always bringing on new ideas, new concepts. And again, a lot of it's coming from feedback from owners. You get these folks that have 20, 30, 50, 100 machines out there, and inevitably those locations that they're in start saying, hey, could you provide this? Could you do that? Is this a service you could do for us? And so because of a lot of that feedback, we're expanding into different markets other than just, I think about the back in the good old days when you could put a quarter in a machine and get a handful of M&Ms, kind of that kind of thing, to where now you can provide a full service of everything through the vending business, basically, to where we can go into a location and provide them snacks and meals and drinks. And if they want coffee service, we can do that. If they want an ice cream vending machine, we can do that. It's the possibilities are really endless as to what we can expand into now. And there's a team of people on the company that are constantly looking for what else can we bring on to help our owner operators be more successful.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is pushing that envelope and being, I guess for lack of a better term, being a disruptor in an industry. And it's almost as though Naturals2Go is setting the pace for the vending industry. Would you see it that way?
I feel like it. In fact, sometimes I feel like the industry and the business, the growth, it's almost trying to run away from us.
Yeah.
And there is so much potential out there. There's so many options. Sometimes folks will say, well, you guys have been doing this almost 15 years now. did I miss the window? I mean, is it already too late for me to get involved with this? And I would, I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I bet we're like 1% of what we could possibly become, down the road at this point. There's so much potential out there. And some of that kind of, I mean, we almost have a responsibility to kind of pull the reins back a little bit, if you will, and say, okay, we can't let this run away from us and get too big too fast. I mean, we got to keep it under control. but because we have more people really that want to come on board than what we can keep up with sometimes, really. And so I think there's something to be said for, building and growing and having your business get bigger, but also doing it in a way that's responsible. So you do the right thing for those owners, and you don't outgrow yourself and then, you're a flash in the pan, basically. We don't want to be here today and gone tomorrow. We want this thing to last, for the next 50 years and then and more.
Absolutely. And, in the article that I read at the top of the show, it talked about that strategic growth. And that's exactly what you're talking about, pulling the reins in and making sure that you manage that growth at a pace that makes sense for the company, makes sense for the employees, and makes sense for the owner operators. So, we have, there are quite a few broker groups that we partner with. And I would imagine that they see that we are growing quickly as well. Do you get feedback from that?
We do. I mean, there are several groups that we work with that basically help us build our business. And they get pretty excited because we have owners coming on board at a pretty quick pace. And I think it's easy to look at that and say, wow, this industry, this business is really growing fast. Let's just fan that fire as much as we can and make it go as big and fast as we possibly can. But the smart ones also recognize that you have to do that at a rate that makes sense. And we actually, one of the major broker groups that we work with recently gave us an award. And I mean, these guys represent in their portfolio 600 or 700 different business options that they represent in their portfolio. And they gave out 2 awards recently for responsible business and franchise growth. And so we felt very honored in the fact that they looked at all of these hundreds of possibilities out there and said, hey, Naturals2Go is doing this the right way. They're growing it in a way that they're taking care of themselves as a company. They're doing the next right thing for their owners, the people that are coming on board. They're making sure that works all the way around, so that it works for everybody in the long run as well, and not just kind of a money grab. Like, let's do as much as we can today, and we'll worry about tomorrow later. And so we were very honored to be able to be a recipient of an award like that says that somebody recognized, hey, you guys are doing this the right way.
Gary, you've kind of talked about where we started and where we are now. And with your experience with Naturals2Go and with franchising, where do you see the trend of the vending machine business actually going? I know you talked about there being just, we have just a fraction of the market out there. What do you think the trends are that are going to move Naturals2Go in a different way?
It's certainly the trending up right now. And I don't see that changing really. I mean, this is a business that basically, it's we talk about trying to be a recession proof model, something that no matter what happens in the business world or the industry or the economy or whatever, we want to be a business that would continue to flourish and do well. I think as interest rates go up or cash flow gets tight or the economy gets crazy or whatever the case may be, I think you'll see people that, maybe they're not going to go out to Ruth's Chris and get a steak every weekend, because the wallet is a little bit tighter. But the idea that, hey, I can grab, lunch out of a vending machine. I mean, this is a machine that has like a healthy option in there. I can get a meal and a drink for a few dollars. I don't have to get in my car and drive uptown. I don't have to spend, that $4 a gallon gas to go do that. People will always eat and always drink And so we're in an industry that's never going to go away simply by nature. So as long as we're kind of smart about how we do this and what we carry in our machines, the trend will always continue to go up. So whatever may come at us in terms of that other craziness outside it there, there will always be a need for the service that our owners provide. And that's one of the things that I love about it is there's a number of things out there that things could get tight for, I think, but our industry, there will always be a need for that.
Mm-hmm. And, we've been talking about vending machines, but it's so much more than that, isn't it, Gary? You mentioned coffee machines as well.
Yep. There's so many different directions that we can spin this off. And some of which we're probably not at liberty to share, but there's a never ending supply of options out there of things that people ask for that we have connections to go get. And so as our owners run into things and technology, of course, is leading the way. I mean, a few years back, nobody would have ever thought that you'd be buying something out of a vending machine using your watch. But our machines do that. And so we're constantly trying to lead the way as far as in the industry itself and the side of technology, so that, if you really do want to buy a product with your phone or your watch, or you can do that. And who knows, I don't know if cash will ever go away or not, but even if it did, we're already poised to be able to move right on. If something like that happened, it wouldn't hurt our industry at all. So the options truly are limited. Are not limited at all, I think, in terms of how big we can go and how far we can go. It's just what does the industry need? What do the operators need? And how can we provide that for them?
Yeah, I love that. Gary, we've come down to the end of the show, but if there's somebody listening and maybe they're thinking about vending as a business, why should they consider Naturals2Go?
Well, there's a couple of things maybe that come to mind, and I'm kind of maybe a good example of that. A lot of times as folks look at franchises and businesses and they're exploring like, hey, what should I get involved with? One of the big things really is that you'd really like to be able to like pull the curtain back and say, okay, what really goes on in this company? What's the real deal behind there? I really want to know all of that before I write a check to this company to get involved. I think it speaks a lot to people that are considering something like that. When you look at, this company's gone from 12 employees to we have 140 something employees now. I actually don't even know the exact number, but we've grown substantially over the last 15 years. But I think one of the telltale signs is that there are a handful of employees that came on board as employees. Like, I just need a job. I want to go to work for this company. And then as they've seen what we do and how we do it, they are now business owners. And so I think it says a lot that people can do their investigation of us and say, hey, yeah, that's a solid concept, a solid idea. It's a solid company. Everything checks out. I want to invest in that and run a business like that for myself. But I think it says even more when you look at the number of employees that they've already, they get the peek behind the curtain all day, every day. And yet they still said, yeah, this is a great business. This is a great industry. I want to get involved. I'm going to put machines of my own out. And we have a very high percentage of the people who work for our company that own their own route of machines. And like I say, some of those have come on as owners first and then came to work for us. But some of them have worked for us first, like me, and then said, yeah, this is a great business. I'm going to put my own machines out. So I think that's the one thing. The other one that I just had in mind was that, like say, literally there's no end in sight. If you want to get involved in something that you can go as big as you want to, you can build it as big as you want to, you can make as much money as you want to make, you can be as busy as you want to be. It's all out there for you to just take advantage of. There's only a handful of companies that could actually put you in a business like that. And then when you narrow that down even further to say, okay, I want to be able to mitigate as much risk as I possibly can. I want to be in control of my time as much as I possibly can. I want to be only as busy as I want to be. When you factor all of those things in, I just don't know of any other program that's available other than vending that can check all of those boxes for you and literally put you in the driver's seat to build whatever you want to build. I don't know of anything else that could do that. If I did, I'd probably be working for them.
Well, we will end on that note because we don't want you working for anybody else, Gary.
I have no intention of going anywhere. Vending's the greatest industry in the world.
Yeah, it truly is. Well, Gary, thanks so much for spending time out of your busy day with us and sharing a little glimpse at where Naturals2Go started and a little about where we are right now. So I appreciate your insight there.
Yeah, you bet.
So, folks, I always leave with a quote, and this one is from Venus Williams. And if you know Venus Williams, she's a very successful professional tennis player. The quote goes like this: I don't focus on what I'm up against. I focused on my goals, and I try to ignore the rest. It's kind of what we were talking about today, just focusing on your business, focusing on your goals, and you'll get there. Because there's lots of distractions out there, a lot of noise out there. And if you let it get to you, then it's going to take you away from your target. So, folks, thanks so much for joining me today on VIBEcast. And until next time, go out and live the vibe.
That's a wrap for this episode of the VIBEcast. We hope you've been inspired and empowered on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all your favorite platforms to stay connected with the Vibe community. Until next time, keep nurturing that strong vision, fueling your inspiration, and embracing a sense of belonging and empowerment. Your dreams are within reach, so keep living the vibe.